Welcome to Uzbekistan's Economic Forum 2021. We are joined today by Ilkhom Norkulov, who is First Deputy Minister of Economic Development and Poverty Reduction. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
First of all, can you explain what your priorities are for the country to increase living standards and increase GDP?
We have to make the growth more inclusive and also taking into account the lessons of the pandemic. This growth has to allow us to build more resilient economy and more resilient social system as well. Based on this, we are kind of setting up several targets for us, and head of the state set several targets. So this target is increasing the GDP per capita by 1.6 times during the next 5 years, and also ensure that annual growth rate should be somewhere around 6 to 7%. We have to make sure that the level of the growth that we are going to achieve should be also supported with the sufficient level of the energy. So, the energy market reform will be aiming to create better conditions for private investments, and we are expecting that will be more on renewables, and so the economy will be more resilient, more the dependence on limited source of the energy resource will be shortened, and we can have a diversified source of the energy supply.
You have used the word resilience. I think it's very important in today's context with the pandemic. And in fact, the economy in Uzbekistan has proven that given the work that has been achieved over the past year since you announced your intention to free up the economy, well, that's actually set the country on the right path for growth and for sustainable growth, for resilience.
If we look, the first days of the pandemic, when it hit all the countries in the world, many countries they faced challenge, and the nature and character of this crisis was totally different than compared to previous ones. And you wouldn't be able to find the recipe for resolving the problem because this is something new. And this wasn't only the economic crisis, this was a human crisis. And at that time you had to be able to quickly mobilize all the necessary resources. Having buffers, cushions, that allowed us to move flexibly, very quick. And so thanks to that, and also thanks to the reforms that we already started 5 years before, so with the inertia of that reforms, we were able to avoid the bad consequence of the pandemic and also keep some very small but positive level of economic growth.
What you're describing is the fact that it's important to have the buffers. It's important to start from a very solid base, but it's also important to give the economy some degree of flexibility, of agility.
This is the important thing, and as I mentioned, having these buffers and cushions, they allow you to act flexibly, and this is why we are trying to take it as a lesson. And for the next 5-year agenda, we are saying that the macroeconomic stability will be one of the factors that has to be there, in the middle of our reform agenda. We will carry on with the further market reforms, but keeping in mind that we have to ensure the macroeconomic stability, and because without that we can lose, we can kind of reduce our resilience.
The fact that your ministry is called that of economic development and poverty reduction, well, that's an acknowledgement that something needs to be done on that front.
You know that naming, changing setting up the new ministry is not enough by itself. So you have to have right capacity building system, etc., etc. So from the first days, what we did together with hiring young and experienced specialists, we paid much attention to put in place the collaboration and partnership with the appropriate and relevant international agencies. So this is World Bank, this is UNDP, UNICEF, other Asian Development Bank, and name a few. We started to work together with them, started to launch different projects.
The fact that the president used the word poverty, that's a first, and that's a game changer, isn't it?
At the beginning of 2020, the president of Uzbekistan, His Excellency Mr. Shavkat Mirziyoyev, announced that the poverty reduction is a key part of the government policy. And since then, we started, towards more fundamental policies. But at the same time, we have to note that before that, we never used the word poverty, especially when designing the government social policy and implementing it. The word poverty wasn't used. We have to show to greater public and to our partners that how strongly we are determined towards reducing the poverty. This is a very important thing.
Tell me about the steps Uzbekistan is taking to create a green economy.
Uzbekistan is one of the countries who use more energy compared to other countries in order to produce 1 unit of GDP. So this is also important because this is important for increasing the competitiveness and also increasing the efficiency in the economy. At the same time, we see that the incomes are also growing. In this situation, limited land resource and water shortage requires from us, to make more green approach, innovative green technologies in order to produce more food and more agricultural products given the shortage or limited natural resource. This is also a necessity. If you look, all of these things, they will be supporting, first of all, the economic growth, more production, efficiency, and food security, and support, and provide us with the new source of industrial growth. But they will all be, relying on green technologies. So that's why it's a necessity for us. By bringing the private and foreign direct investment, advanced technologies, energy efficient technologies, to change the situation and move towards more efficient and green technologies. So this allows to carry on our policy within the climate, fighting against the climate change agenda. From the other side, this allows to increase the competitiveness and overall productivity in the economy.
Mr. Norkulov, thank you.